Welcome to Dark Sorcery. I'm Alfredo Martinez, and I have with me Primordial Chaos. It's good to have you today, man.
I appreciate you having me on, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of good information, a lot of good content you have. You're a left-hand path practitioner. Um, Go ahead and tell us how your spiritual journey began.
Okay, I'll try to give you the short version. Uh, so I originally was born and raised Catholic, like I know a lot of us, most of us here in the West. A lot of us came up through religion, not a super strict Christian household. I mean, my mother was more into Catholicism probably than my father. Gave that up probably at a very early age, around 13 years old. That kind of died quick, and then I kind of dabbled in a lot of stuff after that, trying to find my way. I mean, I was very interested in Sumerian mythology, ancient Egypt, always fascinated me. Dabbled in Sufism, even experimented with Islam for a little bit as a teenager, early 20s. And then as I got older, kind of what led me to the occult was Freemasonry. I started to, it kind of took me into other areas. And then I got into the Rosicrucian order, and that kind of opened the door to OTO. And I'm just kind of giving you the fast version. But even having gone through a lot of those things, I still felt like there was still something missing. And then I started to stumble across different authors on the occult or the left-hand path, some Temple of Set books, which really kind of opened me up at the time. Aleister Crowley, obviously, some of his workings were darker. But once I kind of got into what I would say, I mean, it's kind of hard. Like when I say to describe it, like when there's something missing, you just kind of feel like you get something out of something, and it just felt incomplete. So once I started dabbling, I would say pretty much with the Temple of Set, which was probably about 2016. But I just don't do well with structure, so that kind of didn't work out.
Yeah.
And then long story short, when I got on my own path, I just started studying pretty much various different things. I mean, you name it, whatever I could get my hands on, and I kind of just come to my own understanding of it. And I'm fully aware. I don't believe anybody has there's no such thing as one particular way to do something. I think there's different perspectives for a lot of things. So just going through those different spiritual paths kind of led me here to the occult and the left-hand path, because I felt like Christianity was definitely lacking. Comedic spirituality, it gave me a lot, but it was still, I just felt like there was something missing. It felt like they were all saying the same thing, but in a different way. And I just felt like there was more.
Right. That's interesting because, I myself grew up in a religious household, going to church and stuff like that. Um, would you say that if you had not had that upbringing, then would you not be where you're at? Because obviously it had a hand in getting you interested in ancient cultures and different kinds of spirituality, right?
No, it's a good question. Now, I don't look at it like that, because what I've learned now, going through my experiences and on this path, I believe everything served a purpose. And I always tell people, I don't look at it like people would say, oh man, I wish I would have known back then what I know now, and then I wouldn't have wasted my time. I don't look at it like that. I look at it like going through those, whether it was Christianity or any other spiritual path or school of thought. I think now looking back on it, you can go back now and kind of reform what you learned, and you actually see it better now than you did back then. So I was always, as a young, what really only like drew my attention, like say in the Catholic Church, it was the ritual aspect of it. This is going to sound weird, but as a kid, I used to like to go just to smell the frankincense incense, like just the ritual, just the
That's
ritual
funny. I've never
part
heard
of it.
anybody say that.
Yeah. I just like the ritual of the mass, kind of as a young kid, had my attention. So I never really, the rest of it, I'll be honest with you, I never really paid attention. Now, as I got a little bit older, like, because I did go to Catholic school also from first grade to eighth grade, got kicked out in eighth grade, long story.
Yeah.
I was drawn to just the ritual part of it, but I don't ever look at any of it like, I believe it served a purpose. I don't have any regrets about it. I think it was needed It was just part of this journey that we're all on. I believe whatever it is, how bad you classify it, or negative, good or bad, I believe it all served a purpose. So I don't look at it like that. I look at it like it was necessary for my personal experience of what I had to go through to get to where I'm at now. If that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, same here, man. I'm with you on that, because it has its downsides, but at the same time, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be
100%.
In fact, I wouldn't be someone who likes to read, different spiritual books and get knowledge from that way, because train myself to read the Bible trained me to read other spiritual books as well.
Right.
Now, you had mentioned reading some occult books. What occult books would you say have inspired you to where you are right now?
Oh man, I mean, I could go through a lot of different occult books. I mean, again, I mentioned a lot of Temple of Set writings, Michael Aquino. I mean, I like a lot of his books. Certain books of Michael W. Ford. Now, what I learned to do as I run through some of this stuff, I always tell people, obviously, you're not going to agree 150% what's in every book. So it's more of the mentality of you take the meat and you toss away the bones, because I also know, just like people that might watch my channel or people that watch your channel, they're not going to agree with everything we say. Would be foolish to think that. So I kind of I graft out of everybody's information what I feel resonates with me, and I kind of utilize it, there. Highly influenced by a lot of the Temple of Ascending Flame work, because I am a high priest in the Temple of the Ascending Flame since 2019. So Edgar Creval, Asenath Mason, you get Stephen Flowers. I mean, a lot of these. I mean, I could run through a bunch of them that have been, very influential over the years. Don Webb, he was probably some of the first occult books that I came across. That was actually what sparked my interest to kind of get involved with the Temple of Set. And I went through the Temple of Set and got initiated there. That didn't work out because of personal differences. Like, I'm not a person, I don't like to be told what I can and cannot do. That's just not me. I'm not that type of person. But again, a bunch of those.
And that's necessary for spiritual growth to break out of that. Yeah.
Yes. I don't do well in my background, I've been in a lot of initiatic orders, like I say, OTO, the Rosicrucian Order. I'm a Master Mason. I went through a bunch of that structure, and I kind of found there's a lot of politics in that. So one of the things going back about 9, 10, 11 years or so, I vowed not, even though I might have active memberships in those groups, I don't really go like I used to, because I found out there is an aspect of your growth being stifled, in my opinion. I mean, you can get a lot out of those things. I just want to be clear. You can get a lot out of it, but I think you have to, if you really want to become, on that path of self-mastery. And when I say become a god or a goddess, I just want to be clear when I say this, not in some spooky way. When I'm saying a god or a goddess, I'm not talking about the monotheistic God sitting in the clouds controlling everything. Meaning somebody who is responsible for their destiny, who takes control of their destiny and takes responsibility for their actions, accountability. That's what I mean when I say a God. And more so, spiritual liberation and freedom is the greatest gift somebody can have. It's a great feeling to wake up to not know you're indoctrinated with all that mental indoctrination that some of them paths put upon you. So it's like we can get up any day we choose and say, I'm feeling the energy of this particular spiritual path, and my spirit is telling me to work with that. That could change a couple of days or a few weeks later. I mean, I use that as an example. That's a great feeling. So I think, one, to have that spiritual sovereignty, freedom, and liberation, I do think this is a path, even though we have aspects of community platforms like this, which is great, but it is a path of isolation, and it's a beautiful thing. And I think one has to experience that isolation to really understand themselves, master themselves, and grow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And in fact, I was watching one of your videos, and you were talking about the path of self-mastery and how it's not for everybody. Just like you had your experiences in the OTO and these different organizations. They may be for some people, they're not for everybody. Obviously, the path of self-mastery is not for everybody. And you said that and it is true, a lot of the people who are the loudest in the community are the quickest to run, or just can really do little little to nothing.
Correct.
You know?
Yes. Yes.
I agree with that.
Yes. And it does happen. And it's not to be judgmental, but you're right. It's I've seen that so much over the last 20 plus years. It's always the ones that come in the hardest, the loudest. They're so dark, and they're this, they're that. It is true. It's the quiet ones that carry themselves with grace and dignity and go about their business, he or she. Oh, they're the ones you see that they're around. I mean, they're here, they're rooted on the path, and they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And again, it's not to be judgmental, it's just speaking the truth. So that's where I think it separates, the serious practitioners. We have a lot of dabblers, let's be honest. I'm sure you could sit here
true.
all night and count on, I mean, you could be thinking all night how many dabblers you've seen come and go. And yeah, I don't recommend, it's not a path for dabblers. You could actually get messed up being a dabbler on this path, I'll be honest with you. But yeah, 100%.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll admit, like when I first came on to the scene, I was really loud. I had just left Christianity. I was really loud, and the spirit world had to humble me and say, look, look more inwardly. You need to grow more. And
right.
And yeah, it's very true. And a lot of people, as soon as trouble comes their way, they go back to what comforts them. Like you were saying, whether it be to Christianity or whether it be to some other spiritual form, they have this form of comfort where they like to just, okay, everything's gonna be okay as long as I lean on this. You gotta look inwardly. Like you were saying, a lot of the monotheistic religions have people concentrating on look outwardly into something that doesn't really exist called heaven, and look to the sky. There's a man up there. They want you to look as far away from everywhere, but inside yourself, which is what counts.
100%. And one thing you start to learn on this path with understanding yourself, and then as your interaction and experience with others over the years, that programming it's okay we use profanity, right? Because sometimes it just
it's fine, man.
All right. I do kind of have a little bit of a gun in mouth. I just didn't want to disrespect you or your show. But yeah, that programming, it's deep. It's some shit. I find out one thing, regardless, deprogramming yourself of a lot of the bullshit, whether it's through religion, cultural indoctrination, educational indoctrination. People think that stuff goes away. They kind of set themselves up for failure because that doesn't disappear overnight. I don't care how much you think or how much you're a practitioner. I think some people they're not prepared, so they come on the path and then they maybe are not doing stuff like shadow work, which you always hear me talking how important that is, because that gets you to really understand who you are, the good, the bad, the ugly, your strengths, your weaknesses. And I find a lot of people don't do foundational work when they come on the left-hand path or the occult or self-mastery. And then they tend to right away maybe jump into really dark, intense stuff, which I always suggest that's a mistake, because if you're not in sound mind, sound body, that can be disastrous because you can open up your psyche to a lot of psychological and mental and emotional trauma. And then I think, like you just said a few minutes ago, they get to a bump in the road where they activate some type of trauma. It could be something that happened when they were a child. It could be some form of abuse, or some type of fear triggers them. And I find, for an example, let's just say somebody who was a Christian, when they go back to what they did, they tend to go back 10 times harder than they were previously, because it's that security blanket. And it happens. I'm just going to be real. And that's what I mean. Not everybody's built for it. And the thing I find very, similar with everybody when it happens, they always try to find some justification for it. It's always, well, I found out, Jesus called out to me and told me what I was doing was evil, right? It's always just some subjective experience that's not really adding up. And I get it. Look, there's nothing wrong with that. Just the reality is, stay in your lane. You figured out it wasn't for you. The only problem I have is when people sometimes revert back to that, then they go on a mission to bash the occult or the left-hand path, how wicked and evil it is. Don't do that. Just say, look, you came to the conclusion in reality, it just wasn't for you. And I would respect that more if you left it alone, went back to doing what you were doing. You can go hard, strong, no problem. But I find it very funny how they can find everything wrong with it when they leave and go back to what they were doing. to try to justify that. I kind of find that comical. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Now, you had mentioned something interesting in a video. You said your spiritual journey, your ritual work should be designed first for your needs before your wants.
Correct.
That is so important. And I think that a lot of people overlook that, because let's say they start out with what they want. Well, they don't have the vibration and the experience to hold on to that, because it takes time. You need to train yourself on what you need so that your vibration can change, and then you can hold on to what you want. But if you go for what you want
100%.
before, you hold on to it loosely. What do you think about that?
100%, Alfredo. That's a great point. And the reason why I say that is because you know as well as I know, sometimes people are what I like to say are armchair magicians. You know, they get on the internet. And I've always said the internet, social media platforms, it's a double-edged sword. It's a gift and a curse simultaneously. It's great because we could do stuff like this. We could interact. We could reach a large amount of people in a short period of time. That's the upside to it. The downside to it is there's so much bullshit flooding the internet, social media, and all these different platforms that some of these newer people that come on the path now, they get so twisted mentally about it. Like, how many people do we meet on this path? They come, oh, I'm on the left-hand path. I'm going to start doing love spells and money spells. I'm going to be rich, and I'm going to be getting all the pussy in the world. I'm going to have orgies with women. And, you know, the men do that, and the women think they've got, you know, I got 14-karat gold pussy. I'm going to do a ritual with Lilith, and now all the men are going to be flocking at my feet. You know,
Or they say, I'm this deity reincarnated in this. Yeah,
that bullshit.
You get a lot of those.
Exactly. And it's very toxic because newer, sincere people that might really want to come on this path and learn and grow, some of them can see that and go, oh, that's a little far-fetched. So what happens is they come on this path and they immediately go to stuff like that, not like, I want to gain knowledge of myself first. I want to understand myself. Mm-hmm. And that's why, again, I revert back to shadow work. I always teach people when they come on this path, if somebody asks me, now again, as I said earlier, there's not one particular way. There's no right way of doing anything. The right way to do something is what works for you. But I always suggest to people, if a new person comes to me for an example and they say, you know, Brother Beniti, where should I start? I say, well, I always recommend what I call the 3 foundational pillars of how I teach people in the occult: shadow work, ancestral veneration, not worship, right? You should have an understanding of your bloodline. I do believe bloodline spirits, working with necromancy and ancestral veneration is a powerful tool when you understand it. And demonic integration work. I believe if people start with those 3 and start to understand it, study it, and master it, they get a greater understanding of themselves. And then that establishes the needs that they need to work on. So then that'll dictate what kind of ritual work do I need to be doing. Because now I understand myself. I see what I got to work on. I understand my shortcomings, my weaknesses, my strengths, my gifts. So now I'm working based on, now I'm not saying you can't do ritual work for your wants. Yes. You know, materialistic, we know, going back to the teachings of the Satanic Church, indulgence is part of our doctrine, but indulging within reason, not where it devours us. When you have no control over your indulgence, like if you can't control your sexual desires, your addictions, and addictions is not limited to drugs. I know people hear addictions, the first thing their mind runs to is drugs or alcohol. No, food can be an addiction. Sex is an addiction. So one thing that's beautiful about our path, we can indulge, but it's up to us as the master and the sovereign ruler of our spirituality. We've got to set the parameters where it doesn't destroy us. So I'm not saying you can't work for riches, and, you know, if you have sexual desires, that's part of this path, no doubt. But if you're dealing with psychological issues, if you're dealing with trauma, if you're dealing with you have habits about yourself you can't control, like your temper or your emotions, I think that needs to be addressed first before I'm casting a spell for money, or I see some chick I want to fuck and I'm going to do a ritual for that, or I want a ritual to get the newest BMW. To me, that's crazy when there's other things of more importance. So that, I want to be clear. That's what I mean when I say you should start with your needs first. And I find this out, Alfredo, once you address the needs, I'll be honest with you, I don't do a lot of ritual work, hardly at all, for materialistic stuff, because I find out once you get your shit together, that stuff just starts to naturally come. That's how it works for me. I don't really do money spells and all that shit. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not knocking anybody that does, but I see once you take care of yourself first and get your shit in order, it just seems like those doors for the stuff you desire, they tend to open for you.
Yeah, stuff falls into place. But I mean, yeah, and even sometimes, let's say if someone wants something, they don't understand that sometimes the spirit world will put you through certain life situations, put you through the
100%.
ringer so that you can understand, you know, what it's like to have that, you know what I mean? Or so that you can sympathize with certain people. You know, there's certain things they don't understand, that even the path of self-mastery, there's a lot of heartbreak, a lot of
Big time.
a lot of stress that you're gonna have to go through. You got to melt away all that until there's just your core self, and then you build on that. They don't realize the heartbreak that they're gonna have to go through in order to find themselves. I think that's a big misconception among this path. What do you think for people who start out?
100%. And I can tell you what you just said for an example. For those that work with the Qliphoth and the infernal spirits and the Qliphothic deities, that is a very emotional, mental, spiritual, the influx of energy that you deal with, that it's happiness, sadness, rage, joy, anger, depression. I know, like, my first experiences with Samael, I wanted to understand, like, one of the things I think that draws us to spirituality, I think all of us, not just where we're at right now today, I think it was a lot about motivational force, going through different spiritual paths to get us here. The mysteries of death. What is death? I think that always intrigued a lot of us. I know that was one of my key burning desires of why I kept on searching. Like, what is this finality of death? Just the finality of it was always intriguing, mystifying, a little fearful when you don't understand it. And I use the death example as far as working with the Qliphoth and Samael. And when I did my work with Samael in relationship to understanding death on all forms and levels, not just physical death. And I did a ritual with that probably changed me forever, because I wanted to experience what does other people, I wanted to tap into other people's emotions around me. Like, what would it feel like if I was gone? Like, I wanted to experience the whole thing. It was a traumatizing ritual for me. I'm not even going to lie to you. I remember after doing it, I was like shaking. I mean, I was sitting there crying and like just trying to put into perspective, what did I just absorb and experience? It's when you go through work like that and you get a greater understanding, it makes you realize what, you know, like there's an old saying, a wise man knows he knows nothing, right? A student is always a student in the sense that they're always willing to learn, even though some of us might consider, I think a true teacher understands at heart they're always a true student because they want to learn. And that's something that Samael taught me. Like, and Samael, you always use Samael in this context, because Samael really, to me, sums up the left-hand path in the sense that it's joy, it's happiness, it's sadness. I mean, you go through some serious states of emotional healing that it unlocks stuff in you just didn't even know was there. And he literally made me more sensitive to the world. I'm gonna say this. I know try to explain it the best way. One thing I learned, this world it can be such a beautiful and horrific place at the same time. That's one thing that Samael has showed me. We as living creatures, we can be the most helpful, compassionate people at one time, and the next time be so destructive, ruthless, and careless. But that's the way of the world. That's understanding that harmony and balancement that's needed. And like, for an example, Samael teaches you those hard lessons that this isn't just a bunch of fucking roses and rainbows. It's not. It's work. And I think shit like that, not everybody's equipped to deal with that. It could be very emotionally draining. And if you're not in sound mind and sound body, I've seen it, you know, certain aspects of this path take people to very dark places they weren't ready for. But yeah, I mean, all that stuff is important. I think if your needs are addressed first, I think those people tend over time to become more rooted, grounded, and strong on the path, 100%.
I think what a lot of people don't understand is that they think that the key to this is knowledge, but it's not. It's understanding of that knowledge.
And that's
all this knowledge,
That's wisdom.
Yeah,
But go ahead.
yeah. Just you know, you have to understand it on a deeper level. Now, you had mentioned something about, you had said the establishment is coming after spiritual people now. Now, honestly, do you believe that there can be another witch hunt in this day and age?
Yes, on a very more highly esoterical, metaphysical level, 150%. And let me explain real quick, because I don't want to sound, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but there are a lot of conspiracies out there, and they're very hard to decipher because there's so much bullshit out there nowadays mixed with truth. So I do believe that's great. I never even looked at using that verbiage you just used. And I think that's a great, yes, I do believe there can be a very high-tech modern witch hunt in this day and age, 150%. And I'm glad you said that, because they have the technology, the weapons that they can use now that they didn't have to have back then. It's funny, for some reason, I pulled out an old book I had yesterday on the Heart Project, and you're asking me this question. I think that's crazy. I do think they can attack us through ELF, extreme low frequencies. There's something I teach people. If you study the anatomy of your brain, I always like to refer to the Matrix movies with Keanu Reeves, and if we really understand, that's really talking about how your brain functions, the hippocampus area of your brain. That's why the character is called Neo, because that's short for the neocortex area of your brain. And if you see, we've all seen the movie, everything is centered about hooking up some gadgets to Neo's brain, and he always goes into his subjective universe. That stuff is real. I'm a big proponent of that. I teach people you need to understand what they call the matrix system. You need to understand your subjective consciousness and your subjective realms, because how they're trying to attack us now, at one, is steal our imagination. And I always tell people, there's always a play on words. When you hear the word imagination, has root in the word images. And in order to activate your imagination, you conjure up images. When we work magic, we're going into our subjective realm, because the correct way to do a black magic working, for an example, just to give you a quick kindergarten formula, you have to manifest and play it out in your subjective consciousness before you can manifest it here objectively. And real magic is understanding how your subjective reality works and how it harmonizes with your objective reality. So I say all that to say, they can, when we're, and people don't realize, the music we expose ourselves to, the movies we watch, the sounds, the vibrations, and the imagery, that all has an effect on us, good and bad. And with the technology, say, it's like, I'm using the Heart Project as an example, but they have all these different satellites now. We have all this technology that is putting these electromagnetic frequencies into the environment, and nobody's obsolete. Shit, when you carry this, every time you carry this is a satellite. You want to know how this is linked to your brain? Everybody's noticing now over the last couple of years, if you go Google something, or you literally sometimes if you just think of something, why is it the first time when you open the Google box, that's the first thing that pops up? Or why is it sometimes you go to Facebook and all of a sudden you're seeing advertisements for shit that you were either talking about or sometimes you Googled in? This shit is all connected. And
especially now that they're plugging AI into everything now.
Oh, hell, boy, now you were going where I was getting ready to go. And that's my whole point. This is a set. Turning off your location does nothing, by the way. That's bullshit. Because they can ping your phone. If somebody gets in trouble legally and they're investigating a murder, turning it off is irrelevant, because they have technology to ping your phone and still connect into that. And then you bring up the AI, the artificial intelligence. And that's essentially as a whole where I was going. They're trying to create a reality where you can't tell what's real or not. And unfortunately, the internet, remember, if you go back when the internet first came on the scene, it was called what? The World Wide Web, right? And we know what a web is, right? If you go understand a web, you can become entangled in a web. So a lot of people's reality now is Facebook, the internet. They can't survive without checking their phone for 2 minutes. Let me check my Facebook account. Did I get an Instagram message? Some people freak out if they leave their house and they forget their phone. It's like they can't function. I'm an older dude, so I'm 53. So I grew up as a teenager. We didn't have that shit growing up, and we're fine. Like, we would journey out in winter, spring, summer, fall, and we were fine. People now act like if I leave my house without my phone, I'm gonna, I can't cease to exist. But the AI, which is deep, The AI is deep because people think, and I want to make sure people get this. People think that AI is going to replace humans. That's not true. AI is going to replace humans that don't know how to operate AI. Let's get that straight. That's the difference. We do need to educate ourselves, and I got to be honest, I'm slacking in that department. We do need to educate ourselves on how AI works, because we are going into a world where it's going to be hard to separate artificial intelligence from humans. I'm just going to that's a fact.
And especially the fact that we're talking about this witch hunt. You know, I think a lot of it's going to be more of a programming thing. You know, especially with all this technology we have. You know, this. I do believe that the movie The Matrix is more of a documentary than an actual movie.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree with you.
When you take into account, like, you know, nanotechnology and all this different stuff we have, you plug that into a simulation, you know, it's going to be very hard for every person to unplug themselves and to, you know, not think the way that the operators of the Matrix want you to think, you know, especially when it comes to, you know, a witch hunt, trying to change your mind, go this way, go that way, because you can change the way people think with nanotechnology and with, you know, some of the cell towers that are out there supposedly.
Oh shit, yeah. And I'm glad you bring that up. And people always ask, what's the solution to combat that? If you go like into Dion Fortune's work, psychic self-defense, we all should be able to master that, because now, even though there's a mental and a spiritual aspect, 100% everything you described, there is also some of us who have not raised our vibrational frequency using that psychic self-defense mechanism. They can attack us physically, because you're going to notice that they're putting stuff into the atmosphere. People like last year, people like, my allergies are going to a level. I'm seeing colors of mucus I never saw before. People are describing these unbearable headaches, like just certain phenomena that are going on inside their body. And inside their body that never happened before. That's a lot of those frequencies that I'm talking about, the technology that have the towers, these cell phone towers, these 5G, which now they're up to 6G now. And, I mean, it goes, a lot of that, it's ionized radiation, because when you look at like 5G, 6G, that's like people that were saying like, oh, well, COVID was caused because the high levels of ionized radiation they were putting into the atmosphere, it was mutating their cells. Well, that was only partially true. That's not really what was happening. But the ionized radiation, it can attack our body where we start feeling physical effects, right? And we need to be aware of that. And that's what I meant when I said, when you heard me say in the videos that, yes, and I love the way you described that. A high-tech witch hunt is it's just me, because things I've seen in my work and my visions and dreams, and I don't ever force anybody to accept anything like that, because it's subjective in nature. So I just put that information out there, and I encourage people to research for themselves and draw their own conclusions. I never want to be one of those people. I had a dream and a vision, and I want you to accept it and believe it 100%. That's not how I work. But in my work, a lot of the spirits and the infernal gods and goddesses showed me, look, we need to build our spiritual strength up, our psychic self-defense. And I'm big on telling people to the best of their ability. You know, I'm big on going to the gym, exercising. I need to improve my diet more. Right, that sometimes can be a downfall, and that's always been a struggle, because I got a sweet tooth, right, and you know, too much excess sugar. I don't promote diet. So you know where I'm going with it. So everything is kind of connected. So I'm trying to tell people this is the year, quote unquote, to put in simplistic terms. I call it the set year because it's the 9. And like on my Patreon page, we're doing a year working with set. Every month it's something different. And this is the year of 9. When you add the 2025 up, it's the year we got to get our shit together. We don't have time to bullshit no more. If we can't see what's going on out here in the world around us, and if people look, ever since COVID, things smell different, look different, feel different. I'm just going to be honest with you. If people can't see that, don't get fooled. I know everything appears on right now that's gone back to some level of normalcy, and it has to a certain degree. But shit ain't never going to be the same. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. But you also offer services, and you teach some classes. You have a Patreon. go ahead and tell the subscribers about all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm glad you brought that. Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel, 2 words, Primordial Chaos. I have probably close to 800 videos on there, so you can spend a lot of time on there. I do have a Patreon page, which is same thing, Primordial Chaos on Patreon. It's actually, if you just type in patreon.com/Baniti, Baniti. And I do private classes on that. I do 3 every month for Patreon members. If you're tier 3 and up, the membership for the classes is $25 a month. I don't think anybody's going to give you 3 classes a month for that dirt cheap. And you can go onto the page and see I have a gang of ongoing classes that started going 5 years back that are continuous ongoing. We just added 2 new ones. If you go to the page and just click the collection section, you can see all the classes that I'm doing with constant new material. And they're basically done in a format like this. It's done on Zoom. You could attend them live. And I know we have members from all different time zones and all over the world. If you can't get there live, everything is archived and recorded, so you could take them in your own free time. And then, yeah, I'm on Instagram just like everybody else, Primordial Chaos 9, all one word. I'm on Facebook, Primordial Chaos. I'm on TikTok. That's how I came across you and your platform. And I started watching some of your videos, Primordial Chaos 3 on TikTok. I just go a little more because, as you probably know over the years, YouTube has become, they're controlling the algorithms now. It's changed. Yeah. I know you noticed it. So yeah, I noticed. I did notice. Yeah. You start talking about certain shit. I started knowing they started taking views from me and dumbing shit down. So I kind of do certain things on YouTube, but on the Patreon, it's no holds barred. I don't hold back on the Patreon. I just started to realize a few years back, about 4 years ago, 3 to 4 years ago, you can't just do anything on YouTube anymore. You got to be careful.
Yeah, that's one reason why not only Dark Sorcery is on YouTube, but we also moved to Rumble and Odysee for the same reasons. BitChute, these other video sharing sites.
Gotcha.
For those same reasons. But yeah, we will. For those who are watching, I will include all those links below in the video description. Make sure you check out Primordial Chaos, especially on his TikTok page, Instagram, YouTube, all his social media. There's a lot of good content out. But yeah, thank you for your time. This has been a very good conversation, man.
Oh no, I appreciate it, man. I'm finally glad we got able to link up. I know our schedules kept conflicting there for a couple of weeks, so we got it done. I meant to ask you real quick before you go. Yeah. So I see they're shutting down Skype. So what platform are you going to start using? I see Skype's going away in May. They're just going to have Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, I saw that. You know what? I just saw that for the first time today. But if you know, we might end up going back to Zoom. We'll find something else. But I'll keep you posted, and I'll keep everybody else posted. But we
Alfredo,
are going to.
I thank you, brother. Hey, maybe we can set up in the future. Come on my platform. I'd like to interview you if you got. Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, you just send me your schedule. Yeah, come on my platform. I'll introduce you to my viewers, and then we bring them over to check out your work. That'd be cool.
Let's do it. And everyone who's watching, make sure you like and subscribe to Dark Sorcery.